Hello guys, welcome to this new video. Today we're going to talk about YAML. This is just like a quick introduction to YAML. So what is YAML? YAML just stands for yes and makeup language. That's just a language that is easy to use. I really want to tell you guys, YAML is really easy to use and it's really easy to read compared to other languages. So I will take a few minutes to walk you guys through about what is YAML, how to use it, and the core concept of YAML. So I was mentioning earlier, YAML stands for YAML and makeup language. It's a human readable language, right? So when I say human readable language, like it says here, human readable data serialization language, meaning that it's really human readable. It's easy to read compared to other languages. This, for example, we want to see differences in terms of other languages that we know out there. For example, we have HTML. That's how the HTML language looks like. As we can see here, it's very difficult to read and it is not human readable friendly. Someone really need to understand HTML to know what is going on here. The second one is JSON. JSON, as you guys can see also here, it's not really easy to use or really easy to read for somebody that is not familiar with like IT. As you guys can see here, it's complicated. And the third one here is XML, which is even more complicated and it's not really user friendly compared to other languages. But if we see here YAML is really easy to use, really easy to read. As you guys can see here, it is very simple. You can see here that we have tool. The name of the tool is Docker. We're expecting an output image and we are expecting that to be stored in Docker Hub. So at least compared to this tree on top, this one, the YAML is super easy to read. One thing that is very important in YAML is the key pair. Very important in YAML because in YAML, especially when it comes to dictionary that are written in key pair, we need to understand the concept of key pair. So imagine the key pair is made of the first part. We have the first part, we have the second part, and we have the third part. So we have here fruit, orange. So now, what is fruit? Fruit here is represent the key, and orange here represent the value. That is what is called key value pair. So this is a key value pair where fruit here, the string on the left of the column is like the separator, the string on the left of the column represent the key, and the string on the right of the column represent actually the value. And we have column here right after the key, just to make the separation. Then we have this. You guys notice that there's a gap here in the middle. You have to make sure that you maintain that gap. So it is not foot colon orange in a single word. It is foot colon space orange. So you have to notice that there's a gap and it's very important. So that is what is called the key pair value here. On the left, you have the colon as separator. And when we have foot on the left, that which represent the key, we have a gap. Then we have orange on the right, which represent the value. So the key actually carry the value. The next thing that we are going to talk about is the list. Also, one thing important in YAML is the list. You need to know what is a list, and you need to know, for example, when to use the list. So imagine that we have a list. A list is also called array, right? We say list in YAML or we say array, which stands for the same thing. So here we have a list of fruit where we have orange, apple, and banana. And we can define another list, probably of vegetable. Here we have three vegetable that is being called. So here, as you guys can see, we have two lists. The first list is the fruit. The second list is vegetable. Now, how to write a list, right? It's simple. It's very simple to write a list. Yeah, let's imagine that we want to write a list of food, like the one I mentioned on the slide before. So we will go ahead and have this food here, and we can define the first one. We are going to write we will write like the father, which is the fruit. Then we will define apple. After apple, we define banana. After banana, we're going to define orange. Then after orange, we're going to define mango. So this is a list of fruit made of apple, banana, orange, and mango. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is also the couple of fundamental and also the sequence. Now, one thing I want to talk about, for example, but before I go to the sequence, let's get this in, like the block style, right? This is a block, so you can either write your list like this in blocks. So there are like two ways to write the list. Like you can either get the list like the block style, which is like a traditional way to go ahead and write the list, or you can get the flow style here, which is how you can write your list too. But to be honest, in the industry, most of the time, people prefer to use the traditional way, which is the block style, instead of using the flow style. The block style make more sense to read instead of the flow style. Now, spacing and indentation is very important. I will point out a couple of important elements when defining a list, exactly what you need to pay attention when defining a list. Now that you know what is a list, now let's see how to format the list. Imagine that we have a list of fruit, like we're presenting here, made of apple, banana, orange, and mango. When you notice something that the apple, banana, orange, and mango, notice that because fruit actually is it is a list of fruit. So first here is the main element, and apple, banana, orange, mango, they are just the element of the list. Notice that there's a gap here. So it is not like we need to put a gap between the parent and the element that constitute the parent, right? We notice here that there's a gap here at this level. The second element that we are going to talk about is that also notice that all the elements of the list are lined up at the same level, right? Not like if we put this line to show you guys that they are all lined up at the same level. You don't have, for example, apple starting here or apple starting after. All of them should be lined up. That's condition, another condition. Then we have also this, and I want you to notice that they are also lined up here just to make it neat. So make sure that you line them up here also just to make it neat on your end. And we have the last one here. And notice also that there's a gap in here, right? There's a gap in here because we don't want to put the hyphen and apple, for example, should not be stick together, though there should be a gap between the apple and hyphen. The same thing for banana, orange, and mango. And at the end of the day, that gives us a list. So those are just conditions. So you want to make sure that the first condition here, there's a gap between the parent and the list of item. And the second condition, you want to make sure that the list of items are lined up together. We call this one indentation. Then we want the third one, you want to make sure that the item themselves, they are also lined up first for better reading. And the third one, you want to make sure that the hyphen and the item are not stick together, right? There should be a gap between the item and the hyphen. Good. Now, the good question remains on when to use a list, right? That's a good question. When should we use a list? For example, imagine that we want to list car. We use a list, for example, when we want to like call items, right? We want to name items belonging to something. If you go, for example, in the car industry, we can have Toyota, we can have Ford, we can have Tesla, we can have Honda, and we can have BMW. All these, Toyota, Ford, Tesla, Nissan, and Honda, they actually represent cars. They have one thing in common, they are cars, right? They have one thing in common, they are cars. And we can actually like make a list of car, right? List of car. Now, as you guys can see, When we talk about, for example, fruit, we say banana, apple, orange, they all represent fruit. If we want to say country, we will say, for example, Canada, USA, France, England, they all represent countries. So a list is just when you basically trying to list items that belong to an entity. For example, right? When you list an entity that belong to entity, list of car, list of food, list of the topic, right? Or even in DevOps, you can list tool. In DevOps, you can say tool. You say Git, GitHub, Ansible, Docker, Docker Compose, Kubernetes. Those are the list of tool that goes on in DevOps. Now, also, we can expand the list as well. We can expand the list, meaning that we can expand the list, meaning that, let's say, for example, we have Toyota. We can expand Toyota to become in terms of a list, but it's gonna be, we define the make, the model, and the year. The same thing for Ford. We can define the make, the model, the year. The same goes for Tesla, and the same goes for Nissan. The same goes for Honda, and the same we go for BMW. So this is just an expanded list, actually. So this is just an expanded list of cars, and we put everything together. We are going to have something like this. In terms of car, we are going to say car. We will define the first expanded item for Toyota, and notice that we have to put a hyphen here to make sure to say that everything here is a list. All these three elements here represent a single item on the list. YAML will read it as a single item actually on the list, and we are going to define the second one. YAML will read this as a single item on the list. Actually, we have two items. All these are lists actually. We are going to define the third item. We are going to define the fourth item, and we're going to define the fifth item. So as you can see, you can have a list and an expanded list, for example, right? So you can have a list and expanded list. If I want to go back to this slide, on this slide, we have a list here, a list of car, Toyota, Ford, Tesla, Nissan, Honda, and BMW. And if we come down here, we have an expanded list. In terms of Toyota, we define the make, the model, the year, and we did the same thing for Ford, Tesla, and other type of car. So, and when we come here, we put those blocks together. So these are still lists here. They are lists because of this hyphen that you have here. So it did that we define car, and this is called an expanding list of Toyota, Ford, Tesla, Altima, and Honda. So that's the list. Then at the end of the day, we're gonna have this, which is the same thing. Now, a couple of stuff that is important that we need to know uh, about the list is that the list is actually order. So the order actually matter in the list, for example. So if we have here Toyota, we are listing cars, we have here Toyota and Ford, then we have here Ford and Toyota. In the list, they are not the same, because the position of Toyota and Ford here is not the same as the position of Toyota and Ford here. So therefore, they are not the same, because in YAML, the list is actually an order. So in YAML, you need to follow the order. If you change the order, the list doesn't mean the same thing anymore. So instead of, if you say Toyota and Ford, Toyota, Ford as a list, and you say Ford, Toyota as a list, these are two different lists. YAML will treat this as different different lists. It is not the same list. That's just something that you need to pay attention on when you are dealing with YAML. The same thing goes for this one. If you are defining an expanding list, for example, as you can see here, this one is a Toyota expansion, Ford expansion, but it is not the same here, because here we start, this block represent Toyota, this block represent Ford, but on this side, this block represent Ford, this block represent the other. As you can see, the sequence is not the same, so therefore they are not equal. So even on the expanded list, we treat that as the same. So it's not the same thing. So a couple of stuff to retain here is that we can have a list or we can have an expanded list. So the order does matter. Now let's start with directory maps, also called here dictionary. So we are done with the list. Now we have directory and map, also called here dictionary, for example. So here we have a dictionary. We are defining a person. Here we put his name, his age, his address, and under his address we put the street, the city, and the zip code. This is actually not a list because we are not listing the type of person. For example, if we are not listing the type of person, but this is actually a map. We are like defining what the person is by giving his name, his age, his address. All right, and on his address, we are defining the street, the city, and the zip code. So this is what's called a directory map, or also called a dictionary in YAML. Now, a couple of stuff I want to notice is that if you pay attention here, like we did on the list, this gap, because the person is what we are trying to define. You have this gap and they should be lined up. The second thing is this gap. Notice also this gap here. What does it mean? Is that the person here, everything here goes under person. So all this represent the person, but everything here where it's delimited by the green color represent the address. It does not represent name, does not represent age, but it represent the address, right? So we will say that everything here is under the person, but street, city, zip code is under the address itself. And also notice all the gap here, like we did on the list. Also make sure that there's a gap because these are actually, we call this the key pair, the key pair value, right? These are the key pair. So we mentioned the gap earlier. Make sure that you have this gap here defined, right? Make sure you have this gap here defined. Now we are going to talk about a multi-string in map, right? Multi-string in map. So for example, in YAML, sometime when you want to like input multiple lines, when you want to input multiple line in YAML, you can either use this bar or you can either use this sign. So both are the same. So if you want to like write multiple line, you can either put this line or you can either put this bar. For example, when you are writing CI5 for when you're writing CI5, for example, for like either GitLab, you want to run multiple commands, you can line do all those commands here. Just go ahead and run them one at a time. So YAML will run them one at a time. So it's either you use this bar or you use this sign here. Now, there are a couple of stuff that I want also to be noticed is that this is still like a map. So this gap, we put this gap here just to say that all these lines are on the description here are the same as you guys see here, and we also put this gap here. So make sure that after the colon, nothing should be there. It should always be empty after the colon, and you can pass anything that you want. But this gap is mandatory for that to read it without any issue. Now, when to use a dictionary, we already defined when to use a list. Now, we want to define, for example, when to use a dictionary, right? Now, imagine that you have a car. Imagine that you have a car, and we want to define some feature of the car, for example. We can define the brand, we can define the model, we can define the color, we can define the type, and we can define the transmission, right? So these represent actually a map, right, or a directory, because those are feature of the car. They cannot be lists of item of the car, but those are just feature, right? Feature of the car. Like the brand is Honda, the model is Acura, the color is red, the type is sedan, and the transmission is automatic. So if we want to go ahead write this in terms of YAML, we are going to define the car first. After the car, we will define the brand, which is under. Then after the brand, we will define the model, which is Acura. After we define the color. And after that, we define the type. Then we define the transmission. And then at the end, we are going to have something like this. So this is, for example, like a one block, right? This define, and this is the dictionary which define the features that the car actually have. So that is when you can use a dictionary. It just depends on the scenario. A list is one just what you like name items, but a dictionary is when you like get stuff specifically, right? Like for example, a car, you would define, like we say here, the model, the brand, the color. For example, for a person, you are going to define, we say a person, you are going to define, for example, where the person is from, where the person work, for example, the person phone number, the person address, the person email. That's going to be actually a dictionary. Now, we can have a dictionary in a dictionary. What does it mean? Let's take again our car example where we define the brand, then we define the transmission. The transmission we define the type, for example. Then we want to define the color. Then we define the model. Now, under the model, we can specify that the name is Acura, the model name is Acura, and we can also specify that the year that the car was built is 2024. And we can also satisfy that the price of the car is actually 40,000, right? So the brand, the transmission, the type, and the color, the model, they represent actually a dictionary, but the model also has a dictionary baked on on it. So that is called a dictionary in the dictionary. So the model actually is a dictionary, is in the dictionary. If you want to go actually and write this in terms of YAML, we are going to define the car first, followed by the brand, then the transmission, the model, then the name. Now, under the model, we are going to define the name of the model. As you guys can see here, look at this gap here. This just means that the name actually belongs to the model. Then we'll define the year. Then we'll define the price. So this will be called a dictionary in the dictionary. These two here represent a dictionary. Then here we call it a dictionary in the dictionary. Then we can continue with the color, followed by the type, then followed by the transmission type. And then at the end of the day, we are going to have something like this. So we can define a dictionary inside a dictionary, same as we can define a list, or we can define an expand list. So we define a dictionary, or we can define also a dictionary inside a dictionary. A couple of important facts that we want to mention here, compared to the list, the dictionary is not, the order is not important. So it doesn't really matter. Let's say, for example, we are defining, we have this to define a person. Start here with his name, his age, and his occupation. Here we have his age, his name, and his occupation. Here we have his occupation, his name, and his age. At the end of the day, they are all equal. So the order doesn't matter actually in the dictionary, but the order does matter on the list. So on the dictionary, it doesn't matter how you put the order at the end of the day, because order define the person, so the order will not really matter this time around. Now, list of map. This is something that also we need to talk about. We need to define the list of map. You can also have the list of map. Let's say, for example, we take an employee, we're going to define his name, his age, his position, and we can list another employee, his name, his age, and position. We call that the list of map, because because we say list, why? Because of this hyphen in front. So these two blocks represent actually a list, or what I called earlier an extended list. If you take a look at this block here and this block here, they actually represent an extended list. Now, but if you take a look at how these elements are defined, they represent a map. So we are going to call it a list of map, because This here represent a list. This here represent a list, which is also called extended list. But if we take name, age, and position, they represent a map. Name, age, and position here, they represent the map. So we are going to say this is what is called list of map. Another important element that we want to talk about in terms of the list of map, you can see we have two blocks here. So the two blocks are being defined. This like, each represent the block, each represent a list here, and each represent also a map here, where we also say list of map. Now, map with list, we can also define a map with list. So as you guys can see here, department, this is one map. The department is made of, on the department, we have engineering, we have design. That on the engineering department, we have two workers there, John Doe and Jane Smith. On the design, we have Mike Johnson and Emily Davis. So this will become map of list. Why map of list? Because all this together represent a map. You don't see any hyphen here, right? You don't see any hyphen there. There's no hyphen here. There's no hyphen on engineering and design. That's why they represent a map. Now you have hyphen here, meaning this is one list, and this is also another list. So engineering is a list, design in the list, but department, engineering, and design represent a map. We are going to say actually a map with list, right? Not to get confused, map with list. Another element that we are going to cover is like a nested structure, right? Nested structure here, where you have here, this is actually all this represent a map, and inside that you have also map with list, and inside the list you have list. So those are nested, a nested structure, right? Which is actually the combination of list, map in various way, right? So you can write like this. So this would be a map, for example. This would be a map like name and department, but department also has two lists. This list, the name engineering list, and the name design list. That's just extended, and under you have employee, which also make a list. So that's just called nested structure. So which is a combination of the list and map in various way. Now, how to comment out in YAML? You can comment out YAML. You just need to pass like a hash sign in front of it. To pass a hash sign in front of it to comment out. When you pass a hash sign of it, it will be disabled and will not be taken into consideration. So just to, if you want to comment out something in YAML, you just have to push the hash sign in front of it, just like we do in Bash scripting. So just by passing a hash sign in front of it, it will be disabled. Now, where YAML is being used in DevOps, YAML is a language that is widespread around DevOps, and this is one of the language that a DevOps engineer must know how to use. For example, YAML is used in Docker Compose, in GitHub Action, in Kubernetes, in Ansible, in GitLab, in Azure DevOps, in Helm, in Rancher, and many more. I hope you really like the video, and see you guys on the next video. Thank you.